When you hear people are decluttering, you always hear people say, keep what brings you joy. Now, when I think of what brings me joy, one of the very first things that pops into my head is books and my reading time. So as you guys know, I am a mom of two. I have a 3-year-old and a almost 1-year-old now. He's going to be turning 1 in a couple of days. And my me time is spent reading. So decluttering books is not the easiest for me, I will tell you that, because they are what brings me joy. But I wanted to share this experience with you guys and kind of take you along. I am in the middle of decluttering, so I am going to show you. I don't know if you guys can see the stacks behind me. Like, I have stacks and stacks of books. I will show you more footage of these stacks as well, because there's so many books behind me and I am in the process of going through my shelves and picking out the books. I will continue to do that. And even though books and reading bring me joy, I had to ask myself a very hard question, actually 2 hard questions recently. And that was, why do I keep buying books? Why do I do it? You guys saw I did a video earlier in January where I went through my whole physical TBR. I had over 300 unread books at the beginning of January. And I've only added to that, guys. While I have read books off of my TBR, I have continued to add to my unread books, and it's gotten a little crazy. Not only why do I keep buying books, but am I realistically going to read all of these books? We all know the answer to that one is no, because 300 already in January and just continuing to add, there's no way I am going to get to all of these books. Now, after asking myself those 2 questions, I also am very, very aware that book reading, book buying, and book collecting are all very different hobbies, and I have managed to get myself into all 3 of those, which obviously has led to that massive TBR, which also then had me even more like, what's going on here? Why am I buying and hoarding all of these books? While participating in all 3 hobbies is not necessarily a bad thing, I am not in any way saying that is a bad thing, but for me it has taken a toll on my mental health, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about and kind of talk about my thought process with you guys. Because I have so many books on my TBR, I am always thinking that I'm never able to catch up. I'm always in a rush to get through as many books as possible. I'm always in a rush to get to like the new trending books as well. So not only do I have, you know, trending books, I have the ones that are going to be released soon. It's a lot to keep up with. Keeping up with, you know, reading the books that I want to read, reading the books that, you know, are new releases, reading the books that I've had interest from the past, reading authors' backlists that I want to get to. It's a lot, and it can be absolutely draining, and to just keep on collecting these books and have them sitting here makes me also feel some type of way, which we will get into later. But it does play a big role on my mental health, and that is essentially why we are doing this declutter. Along with these feelings of not being able to keep up with what I want to read and my TBR and everything just stockpiling on top of one another, it has also led me to, I don't want to say not enjoy my reading experience, because you guys know I love reading, but I feel like I would enjoy it so much more if I just slowed down and took in every single aspect of a book. Whereas now I'm not necessarily rushing through books, but I'm not also necessarily taking my time and savoring every second of a book either. So that is also a goal of mine, is just to kind of be able to free my mind and slow down and savor every single second of a book. Reading is such an amazing experience, and I feel like I am cutting myself short by constantly feeling rushed and like I need to get to the next book and like I need to read the next best thing, as I'm sure some of you may also know that feeling. So I've sat down with myself and my feelings and emotions and, you know, try to process everything, and this is where it landed me, is decluttering a great deal of my books. It has made me realize that I don't need all of these books, number 1. Number 2, my ideal situation would be to have 2 shelves. Now, I still think that is a good deal, and we will get into like the right number of books later on. But my ideal thing right now in this moment, since I do have so many unread books, I want to keep books that I truly absolutely love. I can see myself rereading over and over again. They bring my life value, they bring my life joy, and I can just see myself picking it up again and again and again to reread. And then I want to keep a shelf where it is my TBR and books I'm still interested in reading. Now, eventually, what I would love to happen would be to read the books as I go and be able to read a book, decide if I want to keep it on my shelves or if I want to unhaul it, and then go pick out another one to read and not have just this endless TBR pile. I think that would be absolutely amazing. But right now, where we are, I think my 2-shelf goal is going to be where I'm comfortable at for now. So after the realization that I didn't need all these books, that is when the unhaul process started. I went through my shelves. I took off books that weren't absolute loves. I took ones off that I no longer have interest in reading. And then I also took off books that I know I will not have a hard time getting from the library or a thrift store. As you guys know, I thrift for books often, and there are books that you can find at almost every single thrift store. So even if I read it at the library and decided I want a copy, I would know that I would be able to go and pick it up at a thrift store. I also unhauled those books, and while I share my process with you guys, my thought process and how I went through my books, I also wanted to let you guys know that decluttering is a very personal process. No decluttering journey is going to look the same. So if you see me decluttering books and you're like, I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have done this, I would have done this, I would have done that, it is very personal. And that kind of gets me back to like, what is the right number of books? There is no right number of books. Reading itself, the opinions you get, the opinions you form while reading are very subjective. This whole process is very subjective and personal as well. So I did want to put that out there as well. I am not telling you how to declutter your books. I am not telling you you need to declutter your books. If you have a collection that you absolutely love and adore, that is a-okay. But for me, it has been mentally taxing to, keep and collect all of the books I have. And that is why I am doing this. This is in no way saying that you need to declutter your books or this is how decluttering needs to happen. That is not, what I'm here to do. I'm just here sharing my own personal journey. So I did want to put that disclaimer out there as well. But moving on forward, I did want to share something that also made decluttering my books just a bit easier. So I sometimes go through the process of like looking at things and being like, okay, what do I want to let go of? What am I okay with donating? That is not how I went through it with my books. Instead of phrasing it like that to myself, I changed it up to what books do I absolutely love that I could see myself rereading again. If the book did not fall into that category, it came off the shelves. And that is how I kind of shifted my mindset. Instead of, me looking at a book and saying, am I okay with donating it? I would probably not have donated as much, and that is not my end goal. My end goal is to have books I absolutely love and adore and can see myself picking up time and time again on my shelves. So with my goal in mind, that is what I asked myself as I was going through my books, and I feel like that really helped me with downsizing the books on my shelves. Another thing that I reminded myself often while decluttering these books was, okay, some of these books are just dust collectors on my shelf, and maybe, one day I will get to them. But while I'm not getting to them, why not pass these books along to someone who's going to actively pick them up and read them instead of them just taking up space on my shelves? It would make me happier knowing that someone else is picking them up and reading them while I'm not. I also wanted to mention that in this process, I was asking myself, why did I continue to hold on to these books? Even if I knew I would never reread them, or if I knew I wasn't going to be able to get to them in a timely manner, why was I holding on to this many books? And there were only 2 reasons that I kept coming back to. And the first one being just kind of crazy, honestly, now that I think about it, was that I love looking at my bookshelves and feeling a sense of accomplishment as far as like how many books I've gotten through, how many books I've read, and it's almost like a trophy shelf kind of thing, and that's not what I want. That's not what I want at all. Because like I said, there is no point in me holding on to books that I'm not going to reread when someone out there could read them and love them. Just not a reason to hold on to books for me. The other reason number 2, is that there's a sense of guilt, right? So I have all of these books on my shelves. I had to pay for them, right? And that is one aspect of the guilt that really gets me, is like, if you guys know, I am a huge like budgeting person, and to have this many books that I've paid for, and to know I've paid a good price for some of them and I've thrifted others, which, you know, isn't as big of a deal, but the ones I paid full price for specifically, those things cost a good deal of money, and getting rid of them makes me feel guilty in a way. But why am I going to hold on to books that just make me feel guilty? And you know, even though I feel guilty, nothing's going to change those circumstances unless I pick the book up and read it. And guess what? I am, like I said, not going to get to this book in a timely manner. So there's no point in having this book on my shelves and looking at it and just making me feel guilty. No point in having that on my shelf. Going along with guilt, I also felt guilty because there are a lot of books on my shelves that I think to myself, I should have read that. Like, that was a popular book. I completely missed the time to read it, which is, it's so silly. You can read a book whenever you want to read a book. But that's my thought process. And I feel so guilty about not reading it. And I feel so guilty for purchasing it. And there's just this cycle of guilt that just continues to happen with books on my shelves. So instead of feeling guilty about it, they're just going to come off my shelves. Going along with guilt, and the reason I found myself having a hard time decluttering some books was also because some books were gifted to me. Now, just because they were gifted to me doesn't necessarily mean I can't declutter them, but I feel a sense of guilt knowing somebody got this for me from the kindness of their heart. Now, I do have to say that if the person truly cares about you and knows how taxing this has been on your mental health, just in general, if the person cares about you and you want to declutter something, the person is not going to mind. They shouldn't get their feelings hurt, and that is something that I had to remind myself in decluttering as well, because I did find myself feeling very guilty for decluttering books that were gifted to me, but my mental health is more important than a book on my shelf. Now that we are nearing the end of the video and you guys have heard, you know, how I've gone through the process of decluttering, how I'm still going through the process of decluttering my books, I am hopeful, like I said, to only keep the books I absolutely love. I am hopeful to one day, instead of having a physical TBR pile, to just be able to, once I'm done a book, I can pick up whatever I feel free to pick up, whether it be a physical book, whether I don't want to have piles of books waiting for me to read, because like I said, it has taken a toll on my mental health. So to be able to go from like finishing one book to deciding if I want to go to Barnes and pick up another book, go to the library and pick up another book, that is like the ultimate goal. But anyway, we still have a little time before we get there, and I am slowly working towards that. But we are going to close this video out now, and I did want to say, if you are interested in seeing what books I am decluttering, stick around, because I wanted to separate that. I wanted to do, you know, my process and then what books I am taking off my shelves separately, because that's going to be a really long video. So if you're interested to see that, make sure to stick around. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to do that so you don't miss that video. And if you like this video, make sure to give it that thumbs up. And we are also trying to declutter other areas of our house and lives, and, you know, live more slowly with our 2 kids and enjoy every single moment and everyday tasks like they're supposed to be enjoyed. So if you want to see more of that, make sure to stick around. I would absolutely love to have you. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you guys so much. And I am so excited to share with you the books that I am decluttering. So again, stick around and I will see you guys soon.